Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mental Health and Gaming panel hosted here by the Athena Alliance. My name is ScarletAeon. I am one of the gaming goddesses of the Athena Alliance, goddess of academics. It is a pleasure to have you guys all here with us tonight. Just a reminder, the Athena Alliance is an organization of women uplifting women in gaming, supporting each other in different gaming spaces. So this community has a Discord, Facebook group. We run community events in Discord and here on Twitch at times, as I'm sure you guys can see. It is great to be here, and for anyone that's active in chat, we are also doing a giveaway of the game Good Lookin' Home Cookin' for users that are going to be active tonight. You just have to type giveaway in the chat to be entered into that giveaway. So if you end up wanting a chance to win that game, just type that in there. And we're going to be focusing on different types of gaming spaces with mental health, talking to other ladies in gaming here with different games that we've played, different experiences we've had with mental health and gaming over the course of our lives. And it's a really serious issue with mental health, and with it being Mental Health Awareness Month here in May. Just a few things that most people don't realize is that nearly 1 in 5 US adults live with some form of mental illness. And that can vary from many different conditions and range in severity from mild, moderate to severe. So that can end up being anxiety, depression, anything like that. And it is actually more prevalent in females according to National Institute of Mental Health than men. So it is something that women end up facing in different ways, whether it's anxiety, depression, OCD, bipolar disorder, the list goes on. And what a lot of people don't seem to realize is the FDA has approved different games for clinical aids when it comes to mental health issues. And it's also raised the question about how commercial games can be used in order to help others. There have been studies that have been done by Oxford and other universities to see how the benefits of gaming have impacted people. So it's something that we're slowly starting to end up learning and end up seeing things like that. See how games can impact in a positive way, not just a negative way, us in our everyday lives. It's even something that, especially with this pandemic, has been noted. Microsoft did a study with Xbox researching accessibility and community feedback, and the study found that 84% of respondents agreed that gaming has a positive impact on their mental health over the past year. And 71% said it helped them feel less isolated during this pandemic, so they could play with others and end up feeling like they were still part of a community and understood where they were coming from, and helped with feelings of depression or isolation. Because a lot of people didn't realize that with this pandemic, that isolation made depression and isolation and anxiety worse for some people, especially with how distant we've had to be from each other. But without further ado, I'm actually going to end up introducing you guys some of the lovely ladies that we're going to be talking with tonight. So I'm actually going to end up starting with Olivia here. If you can end up saying your name, if you have a gamer tag, any pronouns you want to go by.
Hello, I'm Olivia, and my gamer tag is Fiery Fox, and I go by she, her pronouns.
Hello, my name is Madam Funsize, and I'm one of the gaming goddesses with the Athena Alliance, and it's awesome to be here.
Hi, my name is Anne. My gamer tag is ScarletAeon, and I go by she, her pronouns.
Hi, my name is Letty. Gamer tag Letty Source Rex from Trash Can Gaming. And you can call me anything except dude. She, her, sir. Just not dude. I just don't like the word.
Hi everyone, I'm Catherine. Like she said, I'm the high heel gamer. I go by she, her, they. I also go by dude, sorry, but
Hi, my name's Kat. I actually met these ladies, and it actually did help me go ahead and help get through the pandemic initially. And normally you'll either see me on places as the Cat 424 or the Katrina 424, but I don't really do a lot of streaming. And my pronouns are they, them.
Hey, I'm Zeldin. I have a Twitch channel, and I go by Zelda and Fairies. I go by Zelda on all social media, and my pronouns are she, her. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. And again, my name is ScarletAeon. I'm going to be hosting this event with all of these lovely individuals talking about mental health. My pronouns are she, her, or they, them. Either is fine. I'm okay with being called dude. I'm used to it because I have a younger brother. So I even answered it, hey, that redhead over there. There's been a lot of different misconceptions, of course, with gaming. So we're going to probably tackle that a little bit first. Negative aspects about gaming that you guys have had to experience. Since we're going to focus on that first and then move into the positive. What are some negative experiences that you guys have encountered in gaming spaces? Kat.
So what I've noticed in particular, especially with video games, is there's a lot of negativity when it comes to me trying to speak out or with my voice. I have a very typically feminine voice, so I've always tried to stay away from those aspects, especially in real life when I didn't have a lot of friends around me, because I do not want to be bombarded with harassment or anything of the sort. And that's kind of why over the years I transitioned more to tabletop games, but that's also why I appreciate organizations like this. That way we can have a safe space to where we have our friends and not someone who's just trying to get something from us.
Mm-hmm. Excellent point.
Negative aspects is I've gotten a lot of, I'm trying not to swear, I'm a Navy veteran, I'm like, what's the substitute word? A lot of crap for being a female gamer, but not only that, but being black, because in my neighborhood, video games really weren't a black person thing to do. We were supposed to learn all the dance craze and do random other shenanigans that I have no idea what we were supposed to be doing. All I knew is I just liked Pokemon and I just wanted to play Pokemon, but I've gotten a lot more crap for being black than I have ever being female being gaming.
Excellent. That's something that I've noticed from a few of my friends as well. So I'm glad that you ended up bringing that up. Zeldin.
I noticed a lot of gatekeeping in some communities of video games. If you are anybody that wants to do anything creative in your community, there might be people that take a bite out of you because they don't agree with what you've done, what you've written about certain topics like theories in video games and things like that. So there are a lot of people that will have their opinions about things, and some of them are really helpful, but then oftentimes some of them can be very critical in not a helpful way. So that can be an issue sometimes.
So with that, sounds a lot of us have probably had that same experience with negative aspects in gaming, with us having weird spaces having to find a place where we fit, getting kicked out or gatekeeped from different types of fandoms for whatever reason, from communities that we've been in around us. Things of that nature. And that definitely impacts mental health with this. And it does end up impacting how we're perceived as gamers. Whether or not it's because we're seen as playing just kids games, like Pokemon, or Sims, or things like that, which some people belittle. Or it could end up being something along the lines of not being taken seriously in more extreme games, like COD. It just impacts there and ends up having negative effects, makes us feel like we don't belong, makes us second guess ourselves. So definitely makes sense with that. But on a positive note there, because we've all had to, we're still here, we're still in gaming spaces. So how has video games made you grow as a person? How do you think video games have impacted your everyday life to make you grow as an individual? Whether the communities themselves or the games. I saw Zeldin end up lifting a finger already.
Yeah, video games has become my entire personality. The Legend of Zelda is my life, and as you can see, it's my freaking name. I go by Zeldin online and Zelda Fairies, so I love Legend of Zelda. It's become my personality. It's become a large part of me. It's how I bond with people. When I grew up, my mom was the one who introduced me to video games. She played a lot of Zelda. And so it was a bonding experience, and a lot of my friends are all gamers, and we play Smash Bros together, and it's sick. So it's a great thing for me. I love it.
I definitely get that. It's how me and my brother bonded. I remember playing Halo with him and my cousins. It was just something that we did back whenever we had to use a connection cord to do so. And I saw Kat start to raise their hand.
Yes, so with me as well, similar with that experience, it's kind of why I mentioned how I transitioned to more tabletop games, which you can still do online. But like that whole community there, it's great. Sometimes you just need to get the chance to show your love of something with somebody else, and you can make a long-lasting connection that way. that's definitely the type of people in the gaming that I've connected with the most, is when they get so excited about something they love. And for me, I'm more of a single player game. I play more single player games because, like, you know, it's nice to escape to a different world in a way that's different than just reading or watching something. And so that's what I really enjoyed for that creativity there. And then being able to talk about my love and express it with others has been great.
Excellent. Olivia.
For me personally, it's made me way more confident. I used to be like way super shy. And then when I got my PlayStation, which is what I started gaming on originally, just talking to people on there made me way more outgoing and confident in real life, and just kind of realizing I could use my voice. And there's going to be people who disagree, but also people who agree and enable me to speak. So it's definitely changed my personality to way more outgoing in real life.
Excellent. Yeah, I feel that. Oddly enough, when you feel comfortable in games and you feel knowledgeable about them, definitely helps you feel more outgoing and more confident with it. Catherine, Anne, do you guys have anything to add?
Well, for me, I've been playing video games since it pretty much started. My dad brought home the Atari. So I've had the pleasure of actually watching the evolution of video games. So I can't really answer how it's helped me grow, because it's been a part of my life since I was 5. Um, and it's now a part of my family's life. We're a family of 5, and we all game. Like, we all have pretty much all the systems, each of us, and we all game together. So whether it's individually, just one-on-one with my children, we each have specific days and times that I play with each of my children. And then, of course, Mario Party, Mario Kart, we have like family game night, stuff like that.
It's helped me grow in the fact that since I was a kid, we moved around a lot, military family, go Army. So I didn't really have a lot of friends, because every time I turned around, I was switching schools. So I got into gaming. The first game I ever played was the original Resident Evil 3 on the computer. And then I got more into horror games, so I got a PS1, and then I started to get into Silent Hill. And so that is where I kind of built my weird fantasy of, oh, video games, this is awesome. And then I got into MOBAs as I got into high school and into college, and I met Kat in college, and I met all my other friends through Smite, which is online MOBA, with a very toxic community, but I met some really good people there as well. And it's kind of helped me see that no matter which community you're a part of, there are negatives, there are positives, but they can help you grow and expand as a person.
I mean, I've always had video games my entire life also, since I was like 4 or 5. It's the same thing. I'm a 90s baby. My brother is a lot older. He had the PlayStation, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, so I grew up on those. Started with things like Doom, Resident Evil, Silent Hill, moved to things like Star Wars and Mario, and the Xbox and Halo later on. And so I just play a little bit of all of those, but I agree. I don't know how it's changed anything, so it's always kind of been there.
It seems like a lot of us have that same shared experience where we kind of grew up with games and we kind of saw it develop from way back with Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64 to the PlayStation 1, Xbox, GameCube, going up to now with the Switch, with PlayStation 5, which is wild that we have that now. So we've seen all this develop and end up changing, as well as like how games have changed. So, question that we'll end up asking here as well then is, mental health has started popping up in different types of video games. So it's popped up in AAA titles and indie games. What are some games that you guys end up playing that focus on the topic of mental health or touch on the topic of mental health?
There was one that was really popular a few years ago that took everyone by storm. That was Doki Doki Literature Club. And my lord, did that have a take on mental illness. Yeah. It was, it was really dark, but these things can be very dark, be all consuming. And I found that even though it was really dark, I did love the game. I did love everything about it, you know, but they did it in a creative way. So yeah, that was the main game I remember.
That was an intense game. Anybody, like, I'm glad they had warnings at the very beginning of the game, because there were going to be some people that clicked on that game thinking, oh, it's a cute little dating sim. And there were like 2 to 3 warnings before you started the game letting you know, hey, this is dealing with some important mental health themes. So if you are sensitive to these things, it might be a good idea to navigate away from this game, go play something else. So that's I remember when, jeez, it took the internet by storm. You're definitely right about that. Cat.
So for me, I actually have a degree in psychology, so I kind of see it everywhere. So, but in particular to where it's the focus, I've actually played a lot of games like Missed Messages or the indie ones, because I've noticed with the indie games, they have the freedom to tell these stories that I'm looking for. And another one too that I did play for the panel as well, Secret Little Haven. Like, I really do appreciate too that they put these content warnings and trigger warnings, because you never know when something's gonna hit you, because something hits different people in different ways. So the fact that we are also able to explore these complicated things and these very, you know, like, safe space is probably the wrong word to use, but, you know, like these areas to where you don't have to directly interact with it, but you know that it's there, and then you're like, oh yeah, no, I could see how this is talking about this, I can see how we can get better, I can see these kind of things now in a way to where I can be okay and handle it and still be here.
Absolutely. It gives you a chance to decide whether you want to engage with the material or not, based on what you can handle, rather than you finding out later. And of course, I'm sure some people have felt with this way whenever they played games, or if they have kids that played games, not knowing what might not be in the game and then finding out later, even with some of the warnings. There was more specific warnings in those more indie titles. Any other games you guys have played that have dealt with different themes of mental health? Letty, are you raising your hand, or is hand just kind of up?
I was raising my hand because I was thinking about this game. It explores a lot about relationships more than it does mental health, but there are mental health aspects to it. It's a game called Coffee Talk, and you basically run a coffee shop that's only open at night.
Mm-hmm.
And I found it really relaxing. Sorry, speech impediment. Sorry. That
you're all good.
There was a game out there that catered, or rather not catered, that I could play that showed different mindsets and different issues and different relationships, including some that could be technically on the mental health spectrum, especially with the alien.
Now I'm actually really reminded of a lot of the JRPGs that I used to play growing up. They have a lot of definitely mental health themes, like the Persona series in particular. I've been playing a lot of Persona 5 recently, and I will definitely say this, I am glad I am playing it now as an adult and not when I was a teenager. Because these are very deep themes, and that's kind of why sometimes these ratings are there. It's that way. Hey, these are very hard, difficult psychological concepts, and maybe letting kids know that it's there is a good way to let them know what they're used to as well. That's kind of where the parental guidance comes in as well. Because with Persona 5, it also here's just like a trigger warning and content warning in regards to that. One of the castles is in regards to a pedophile who decides to hurt children. But the thing is, he has that school so wrapped around his finger that no one actually sees what I just said. Because what I just said is actually what's happening there. But because everyone's so wrapped up in the fact that he is an Olympic player, that they can't see what he's actually doing, and the kid that actually stood up to him is the one that's vilified. So in a way, that's also a mental health aspect, is you have to go into these people's heads and not necessarily break them because they steal the desire, but it's basically saying, if they steal the desires in there, that, hey, maybe this person will choose to change. But at the end of the day, that's up to that person what they choose to do. They could either just wilt away, Or they can choose to what the character did there is confess his crimes and then move from there. And I think that leads really well into what we're talking about here with mental health, is because that's a lot of what's going on here, and the Persona series is really good at exploring those.
It does. It does a great job.
Yeah, so a game that came to mind, it's kind of an older game, but Silent Hill Shattered Memories has a warning screen on the first playthrough saying this game plays you as much as you play it. The choices you make have, consequences and so on and so forth. And the first time I played that game, it didn't really dawn on me how much of a warning that was, because there are certain aspects throughout the game where if you go a different path, it does readily change the impact the player and the character have on the story. And that is just a big point for me.
Yeah, I loved Silent Hill games when they do things like that, because Shattered Memories was a very intense game that your choices impacted how the monsters presented themselves, impacted the type of ending you could get, and how you pieced everything together. It was a great way of combining your own mentality with the game. And there have been a few games where it's not the main focus, but it's popped up as well. Like, there are characters in Stardew Valley, someone in the chat mentioned this, that Shane definitely suffers from mental health issues. He suffers from depression and likely some form of anxiety. So there's different characters that also embody some of those different mental health issues to allow you to potentially see your own condition, or to see maybe your friends and realize that there are different ways you can end up helping other people. So definitely important for that type of representation to get into games. We've talked about a lot of different games with very rich stories that end up pulling us in. So another question that we have for the panel as well is escapism. How does escapism with gaming affect your day-to-day life with different games that you play? Because I know a lot of us play very story-rich games.
Probably one of the biggest escapists of video games here. Like, after I finish streaming, I'm like, I need to de-stress. Picks up another video game. Just to escape from the last video game. I usually find escapism for a lot of rage that I have inside. Because I think people just either don't care enough or are just idiots in my life, and they piss me off. So I want to play games like Dishonored just to go through and just is this a guard? I don't care. But it plays a big thing for me because it allows me to vent out a lot of things about myself without actually putting myself or anyone else in harm.
And I'm going to piggyback off that as well. Normally what I do is, if I'm having a really stressed out day, I am not going to be playing a story game. No, that is a bad decision. So what I'm going to be doing instead is trying to find an open world game like Just Cause or Saints Row. Because like you said, you can explore that violence there without actually harming others. Because that is also something that needs to get needed, is what we feel is real. So we need a way to get it out of us in ways that are healthy and productive. And that's a big way to where that happens here. But also too, in that mindset, you need to know when you can play those games and when you cannot. Because I've also noticed when I've played Dragon Age in the past, before I played it for the very first time, I could not handle any of the gore. It was just way too much for me. But then, as I started playing it more, I've played over 500 hours of Dragon Age Origins. But the thing is, I'm getting at is because I've played that so much, now the gore is just second nature to me. And in a way that still terrifies me, but that's a good thing. Because violence should be terrifying. And you should be aware of how you may be possibly desensitized, and that happens because of how much you're exposed to it. But also, in other times too, if I just want to chill with my friends, I'll pull up Jackbox and say, hey, you guys want to play this? And stuff like that too.
So I do a lot of escapism in games. The one that I've been escaping to a lot recently is Story of Seasons, because it's so easy to get lost in the day-to-day, taking care of livestock and all that. But I also find that there's good and bad to it, because it's good because you're not thinking about the things that are bothering you, but it's bad because oftentimes you're not addressing the things that are bothering you. But sometimes your mind isn't ready to handle those things in that particular moment, so it's nice to have that escape, but then in the future know, there's a thing here. I don't have to deal with it right now. I can deal with it later. But for right now, I'm gonna play Story of Seasons and go have get another cow.
I definitely understand that. I've been getting sucked into Stardew myself, and I'm like, I'm going to name all of my animals themed around my farm name. I will run out of names eventually, but it's fine. I'll figure it out when that happens.
So the game that I would come home from work and escape to was Final Fantasy XIV. I would just play hours and hours of the story, and a friend of mine would be on, and we would just do raids and just have a good time, and it would just make me feel like the weight of the world wasn't there for a short period of time. And then once I was done, I'm like, okay, I'm ready to handle what needs to be handled in the real world.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And to kind of like with the positive and negatives, like I think there's definitely a line that can be drawn with like, I know for me, like Minecraft and like Need for Speed, those are two very different games. But like those are my two like escapism games of like, okay, I'm not going to think about the problem at hand. But then on the other hand, I know when I reach very low points in life, it can become dangerous because like, for example, Horizon Zero Dawn, I discovered that at a low point in life and clocked like 40 hours into that game in the first week, which was not healthy because I was using it as my complete escape and not dealing with what I needed to deal with in real life. And I was just kind of running from it in a sense. So I think it's definitely good to like take a moment and cool off and just like think, like, I can't think of the word, but basically like cool off and not think about your problems and then revisit them. But then there's also the other hand of it can get dangerous when you spend too long in that game and just don't deal with the problems.
Absolutely. A weird balance there has to be kind of found.
For me, actually, I play with two other people mainly, and it's just a way to unwind. We are jokesters, so we're constantly telling jokes, doing silly things. So there's a lot of laughter in our gameplay. Then it doesn't matter what we're playing, because for us, the escapism is not bringing the heavy stuff with us. It's a moment to know that we're gonna laugh for 2 hours, 3 hours, depending on the stream. And that helps us a lot because we play at the end of the day. So yes, we may have things going on in life, but we end the day laughing and having fun and being with each other, and we're best friends. We've been best friends for many years, so it's just a good way to de-stress from the day for us.
Yeah, I like to play a lot of open world RPGs and stuff. That's my favorite thing to just like dive into for hours at a time. But I mean, it also depends if I'm trying to play with someone else. So if I'm playing with the husband and the kids, then we'll probably just play like a shooter or some fighting games, dive into that for a while. But it's definitely I really like to jump into the open worlds because that's the best way to like immerse yourself, because there's so much you can do and rich story to like and lore to get into, and I love that.
The lore is definitely a fun thing to get a part of in games. And on my end, I'll either get into an escapism game like Stardew Valley, where all I'm doing is basically chore stimulator, but it's very rewarding because of how much I get out of it. Unlike washing my dishes, like I'm not going to get experience points for that. I'm not going to level up in dishwashing or anything like that, like you will in Stardew with your farming or your fishing. Or I'll play games like Dragon Age or Dark Souls. And sometimes Dark Souls is just cathartic because you want to go and like do something where you're just killing the enemies and you're farming souls. It's very fun.
I just found it funny how you can get a whole bunch of gamers to play a digital game about washing dishes, sweeping floors, building a house, but get us to actually do it at all.
Are you talking about House Flipper? I feel like you're talking about House Flipper.
Yeah, House Flipper is one of them.
Reminded me of The Sims.
Sims, there's another one. And it looks like we have a question that came from the chat. Someone's saying that they appreciate our discussion and they want to know if any of us have any backgrounds in psychology or social work, because I think they just tuned in. I believe Kat was saying.
Yes, I actually have a degree in psychology. I have a bachelor's of science in it. Excuse my words, my mouth does not want to work some days. But I joke about that a lot, saying BS, haha. But like, I really want to help people with that, so that's where that's there. And I'm working towards getting my eventual PhD in psychology because I can see how this can help people. And I figured that's how we need to help. It's why I mentioned initially also the positives and the negatives, because it's really good to know how these things affect us. That way we're in control of what we do next. Because also, in relation to all of that, it's something that's also extremely taught, especially when I was studying a few years ago, is correlation does not equal causation. That's why I mentioned all these different other points that can be related to it, because realistically, psychology is a very new science, especially compared to what we have in regards to like the harder sciences. When it comes to like physics and math, you're already standing on the shoulders of giants there. But now we have to also think about how we interact with other people. And also, in regards to psychology as well, most of us already, even though Freud is considered the godfather of psychology, no one takes him seriously anymore. We take his good concepts, but anything else we essentially throw in the trash, because we need to have that nuance with these discussions, because it's not hard. We're dealing with other people, so there has to be this kind of balance and nuance.
I was an English major and an English master's graduate, but I focused on psychological theory when it came to narratives. So different types of psychological influence based on symbolism, storytelling aspects, which is why I really get into narrative games. And I love the different symbolism and things there that end up happening with different characters. Like we mentioned before, Shane has mental health issues, and it's telling a different story there with him having mental health issues here in Stardew. So it's not just a lighthearted farming simulator. You see in Dragon Age, Cullen struggling with his lyrium addiction. Or you see Fenris struggling with PTSD from his previous life into Vinter. So there's different narrative games that bring in that psychological aspect of storytelling. But thank you for asking if we had any background in psychology or social work. I greatly appreciate engaging questions like that. And that actually leads me into a great other question for us. How do you feel about mental health being represented in video game narratives?
I guess I take a shot at it. I think it's very important because for me, I remember I never played, I think it's called That Dragon Cancer. But I remember watching Markiplier play it when I was like in middle school. And like, I know when I was growing up, like mental health is not something you talk about. Like it's something you deal with on your own. So seeing this big like YouTuber at the time talk about it and play a game that surrounded that issue, I think it's really important to have the visibility in games. And I think like gaming as a medium brings a new perspective, because if we see it in movies or read about it, we can easily disconnect from it. However, when we're in a game, like that's interactive. And even like the game I was playing for this panel, Far From Noise, it's like there was times I had to stop and I was like, wow, like that's a lot. So I think it really draws you into that theme and makes you have like a better understanding of that concept. So I think it's really important to have games that focus on mental health or even show mental health, like you said, like not necessarily as the main thing in Stardew Valley, but like as a side story kind of.
For me, I don't, sadly enough, I guess I don't really fully pay attention to that kind of stuff because of my mental health. There are certain ones that I do realize, like the new Tomb Raider series, there was a scene that kind of had like a trigger kind of moment, and it made me realize that there are a lot of characters that could, you know, have mental health issues, but they gloss over it and just, you know, make them seem just like a regular or normal person. I would like to see it be represented more, but in a subtle way, nothing too over the top or as as a lot of people tend to see the word crazy or in a straitjacket with a padded room. It's way more in depth than that, and that's just the stereotypical things, you know. So I would love to see it actually be represented a little bit better in the video game world.
Excellent. So less weird, crazy asylum in a horror game, more someone struggling with their own mental issues in their own lives. Like something that showed up, I do believe, in Setsuna's Blade, or Hellblade Setsuna, that showed different types of potential schizophrenia, and that one with how she was talking to her lover's disembodied head. So definitely something there. It's a very intense game. And of course, I found it because Norse influences. So it looks like we have a question from our chat. One is, do you think that gaming causes more mental health problems for you, or do you think it ends up helping you with your own?
For me, it definitely 100% helps. I know what games I like to play. I know what games tend to trigger my mental health, if any. I don't feel like it hinders me at all with my mental health, because my mental health is triggered by other things, lack of sleep, not eating properly, like if I'm having a busy work week or something like that and I just, don't take care of myself and hydrate. Those are the types of things that trigger my mental health. Plus, I know myself at this stage in my life, to know that for me, video games is not what's causing my mental health. It's actually helping me because I'm bonding with my family. I know people are like, but how can you? Well, we actually do. We bond through video games and we create wonderful memories, whether it's playing Mario Party and, my kids laughing at me because they think I'm upset that they have more stars than I do and things like that. Or if it's, like I said, playing with my best friends and we're laughing and we're creating these funny memories because we live stream it, so we can go back and listen to jokes and laugh at that all over again. And laughter is the best medicine. So for me, it 100% helps. And I have the memories of playing with my dad, playing with my brother and my sister, playing with my kids, the older kids when they were younger, and they always say that that's one of the best things, they remember. Of course, going to amusement parks, going to, regular parks and swings and stuff, but they also bring up the fact that, hey, mom played Mario Kart with us, mom played Final Fantasy with us, things like that. So I can't say that it's hindered me. It's definitely 100% helped me.
I understand that completely. There are certain games I'll play if I feel like I am in the right headspace to play them. Because since we keep bringing up different story narrative games, for me, BioWare makes me way too attached to the characters. So if I'm not emotionally prepared to watch some of my favorite characters die again, then I'm not going to touch that game. I'm going to do something else. But fond memories of that game exist. I played that game all through college with my roommate. And so she can't really play games due to a depth perception issue. So I would play and I'd end up making the decisions that she wanted me to make. So it was like she was playing the game. And so it was like an interactive movie for her. Good experiences there.
So what I was going to say in regards to that too, it's because I kind of leaning into what Catherine was saying as well and what you were saying, Dee, it's because I know myself and my preferences, it helps my mental health more than anything else. That's why I mentioned how I know when I need a game with friends compared to a story-driven game. Because also, like what you're saying with BioWare, I need to be in the right mood for that. Just like I would with any of the other types of like dating sims I would play. Or like Sims or anything. It's like if I'm not in the right headspace, it's gonna come off all wrong. And I'm better off just, doing something that's gonna help me in those situations instead of hurt me. Also, leaning into what you're saying with your kids too, to where it has helped, I think that's another thing that, at least for me, I am a gamer born to non-gaming parents. So I think that's maybe where some of the disconnect is with a lot of people and their children, is that they just have different interests. But I do think, though, that if gaming is given a chance, especially from the older generations, they might figure out that they can connect more with their children that way. because I remember I'm an only child, so I spent so many times just playing board games by myself. I still had a lot of fun because board games are fun, but like the reason why I got these is I wanted to connect with others, and I think that's the big reason why we also play games is the interactivity there. Like what you're saying, Dee, especially in regards to the BioWare characters, especially those really well-written ones. You get so attached to these. Legion is my boy. I love that. I love him. What happened to him in ME3 is a tragedy.
Yep.
But like that, but we're talking still here about connections we're making with people, whether they be imaginary or people we want to connect with in life. And this is how we can connect with others, and that's one of the very important things we can do. Because no one wants to feel alone.
I usually use video games as a way to control things because my whole entire life, I would wake up at 3 in the morning to get ready for ice skating, swimming, ballet, tap dancing, regular schooling, choir rehearsal, any extracurricular my mom could find for me that I could either A, test in, or B, was free because my mom traveled the gospel circuit along the East Coast, so she just take me along with her. And then after being in the Navy for a couple of years, I had a lot of issues with people controlling quite the amount of aspects of my life. So I would play a lot of simulation games, especially things like City Skylines, where I'm the one directly in control. I say a house goes here, not you, me. And I feel like that helped me out a lot. Also, it gave me something when I had nothing to do to fill in the in-between times, to fill in the in-between gaps. Because there's only so much of the arts you can take. There's only so much piano playing I can do. So much I can do standing on a stage in front of people. Sometimes I just need a moment of by myself and this is just me.
So one came from chat that I'm going to end up bringing up since we do have a few chat questions pop up. This one's an interesting one. It's, do you think that a mandatory military service in the US would help a lot of people with these mental health problems they deal with? Because in their opinion, it would make them stronger and help them see more real life rather than just their own personal views. Oh, I see a lot of head shakes already. Okay. So I'll say my opinion really quick because I see a lot of head shakes. I don't think so because I feel like a lot of people aren't made to do it that way. I'm a military brat. My dad was Navy and my grandfathers were Army, Navy, and Air Force. So I got to see firsthand a lot of that military family and the fact that it was all about perception of being okay rather than actually being okay. Because there were issues with the simple idea that if you had an emotional response to something, it was meant to be behind closed doors where nobody could see it because you had to present yourself in a proper fashion because it could reflect negatively on your service member if you ended up having too strong of an outburst. So I'm not sure that would be fair for everyone. And some people, some of these issues like depression and anxiety are chemical imbalances in the brain. And no matter what you do, they're still going to end up having that mental health issue. It's a chemical imbalance. Some are situationally formed. Some are there from the time that you're born. You're sometimes born with these mental health issues. And you can make it better, but you can't get rid of it.
Okay, so as a veteran of the United States Navy, do not join the military if you think it's going to fix your mental health. It is not. Both me and my husband can testify to the fact of it's not going to fix anything. It's going to make you worse, actually. Because they're just going to break you down mentally into whatever shape they want. If they need a hammer and you're not a hammer, they will make you a hammer. And then they throw you back out into the world as a hammer. And you have no idea because there's no nails anywhere for you to hammer. It's just going to make your life worse. If you want to join the military because you see financial aspects to it, or you feel the call of duty, or it's a way to escape like a bad situation, fine. But don't go in thinking it's going to help your mental health. It's not. It's going to leave you mentally scarred, broken, and possibly with a disease.
There we go. All right, and now we have... There we go. We can hear you now. You'll go and then we'll get Kat, and then we'll go on to the last question before we get to the reviews.
I was just going to say I agree with everything so far, and go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm right there with Letty, because Letty, we know that we're veterans. We've been there. I served 10 years. And the military is actually the exact opposite. It's abusive. It's emotionally abusive. It's physically abusive. And it goes by its own rules where the things that they're allowed to do in the military, you would never be allowed to do in the civilian world because it's so unethical. But they're protected because it's the military. If your chief doesn't like you just because you're a female and they feel like they want to wake you out of your rack at 2 a.m. just to take out trash when there's 4 guys up there playing Xbox, they could do that.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was just one comment I saw, and I have to address it. They say, Ron, you can report to the adjunct general and have it fixed. When everyone above you is of the same mindset, you can report it to whoever you want. It's not going to change. Nothing's going to happen. I've been harassed for my skin complexion, hair, my lifestyle, anything. And I would go through the proper channels, the proper paperwork, send it up the chain of command, talking to the captain. Nothing changed. My old squadron still has the highest suicide rate in the United States Navy for that precise reason. Nothing changes.
So there was somebody who ended up asking, what is our guilty pleasure when it comes to games that relax you that might not be favorable in the gaming community? So it could be an indie game, a guilty pleasure game, if anyone wants to own up to that.
I'll definitely will. Like I mentioned earlier, I play a lot of dating sims. Especially the Flash games and even like Sims games. You know, like The Sims or Roller Coaster Tycoons and stuff like that. And the reason why I say it might not be favorable is I've seen, it was touched on earlier, but I've seen how people get stereotyped by the types of games they play. The fact of the matter is, though, that if you play a game, you're a gamer. We don't need any kind of like weird gatekeeping. Let people enjoy what makes them happy. And I'm sure some people too, even myself, I like the Bejeweled stuff too, because that's fun match 3 games. Like we're trying to have fun here. And so that's why I'd have these guilty pleasures, because yes, I want to have fun.
So I play a little bit of everything. So I guess some of it is guilty pleasure and then some of them is not. But I'm a variety player, so I play everything. So so I guess my guilty pleasure is I don't have a genre I stick to.
I guess it would be Minecraft. I've been getting back. I feel like it's had like a burst in popularity again, so I've been getting back into that. So yeah, like I was saying earlier, that's kind of the game I go to when I'm like stressed or like anxious about something, because you can do whatever. Like if you need, creative stuff to do, you can build. If you need mindless stuff to do, you can gather resources. So I guess that's my guilty pleasure game.
Excellent. Anne, I saw you raising your hand.
My guilty pleasure game is any horror game. I don't know why, it's just the thrill of it, I guess. So that's just me.
I understand that. For me, I have to be in the mood too, otherwise I get too freaked out by it, but more power to those of you who have guilty pleasure horror games that you can play at any point in time.
Okay, so mine is, I started out playing a lot of shooters when I first got like into gaming, right? So I was playing with like a lot of guys, but like when the squad was offline, my thing I would go to do by myself is play Uno. I started doing this like 3 years ago. They have Uno on the PS4, they have Uno on Steam, and I would just play by myself with the AIs for hours upon hours. And then I told the boys about it, and they look at me like I'm crazy. They're like, Uno, are you serious? That's corny. But then I said, let me buy it for you. It's only $5. So I bought it for the squad. I had the whole squad on Uno. We was playing every day. I don't know what it is. I love it. It's my thing. It's my guilty pleasure.
It's the friend-ending card game that actually people can bond over, and I love it.
We play it. We still cool. Letty, Emmy, we play.
I'm aware you guys are fire at some Uno.
Yeah, I was gonna piggyback off of Anne. I love Resident Evil. Resident Evil 4, guilty pleasure. It's so good. It's so fun to play. So fun to be really jump scared by the zombies, even though it's terrifying, it is still an amazing time. And getting to play the recent Resident Evil 7 and then Resident Evil 8, love it. I don't even know if it counts as a guilty pleasure anymore because it's just good.
No longer guilty. Just
no longer
enjoyable.
guilty. Yep, fantastic.
I like that. Formerly guilty, no longer guilty. I am now innocent of enjoying this game.
So I have two guilty pleasure when it comes to games. I'm gonna go with the innocent one first. I like to play a lot of violent video games where I can do things like rip out people's intestines, rip off their head. And yes, that's the innocent one out of all of this.
I'm getting concerned.
Right? The other one is I like to play a lot of, let's just call it adult gaming. It's just the situations you have to go through to get adult. I'm like, I gotta buy a carrot to do what? And then do what? I need to play this game more oftenly. Hold on.
We're talking about the dating sims, right?
Oh, no. I'm talking beyond dating sims.
I'm giving you a wink, wink, nudge, nudge kind of moment.
I play a variety of games, so I couldn't really think of anything besides a super adult dating sims and non-dating sim adult games. I'm not going to name any names of them, but yeah, there are those, and I guess it's the closest thing to a guilty pleasure. Otherwise, I couldn't think of anything. So I kind of play some of everything.
Excellent. And then I noticed we had another latecomer come in. Would you like to unmute, introduce yourself, and tell us your guilty pleasure game, please?
Of course. Hi, I'm Emily. I know everyone was given their pronouns earlier. I use she, her. I also play a variety of games, and I have a love-hate relationship with the term guilty pleasure, because I think if something brings you pleasure, you shouldn't feel guilty about it. But I think the closest thing I have is Animal Crossing. But as mainstream as it became last year, because we were all in a pandemic, we were all stuck at home. I don't have literally anyone in my life I can think of that wasn't banging out like 6 hours a day in that game. But now it's like no one plays it, or at least they don't talk about playing it. So I don't know if I'm supposed to feel guilty about the fact that I still play it or not.
No,
but I do.
It's
so
Animal Crossing
that, and
great.
then kind of the same thing, like match 3 games. I have a word cross game on my phone that I've like Pavloved myself into. If I play it, I fall asleep, because I used to always play it as I was going to bed, and now 3 years later, I open the app and I go to sleep. So I don't play that one as often.
I get that. I have not gotten to play the new Animal Crossing because my partner has our Switch while he is on deployment, and so I did not get to play. So that's been fun. I will be the last person probably playing Animal Crossing for the first time, so that'll be a fun experience. And if any of you still play, I will gladly invite you to my island and we can all hang out. So one last question before we get to our reviews, and that is, what is your perspective on mental health representation in games? Do you think it would help out if there was more representation on mental health in games?
I'm going to double back a little bit, since I wasn't here in the beginning. I apologize. Because you guys were talking about games that feature mental health and things like that. And I don't think I heard anyone mention, did anyone mention Hellblade? Senua's Sacrifice?
Yes.
So yeah, I don't know if anyone here has played it. I played it on the PlayStation. And while it never explicitly says what the protagonist, her name's Senua, what she's going through, it never uses any exact terminology, but it does have a lot of warning screens at the beginning talking about mental health. It's also really cool because it has a lot of mental health resources and things in there, like, if you're experiencing any of these things, but essentially Senua, the protagonist, she is hearing voices, and it even says on the game that it's best played through headphones. Now, I didn't play with it with headphones the first time through, but I definitely went back and did it a second time with headphones, because as she's having these internal struggles, when I tell you it feels like you are having them as well while trying to play through this game, I mean, it's very interesting. It's very cool. And I also think it's a really good realistic representation of what I think a lot of us may hear in our heads when going through different things. I'm not saying that we all like hear voices or anything like that, but whoever you are, you do tend to have an internal monologue when just navigating life. So as far as representation in games, to go back to your original question, I think there definitely needs to be more of it, even if it's not done in such an obvious way. Because if you have someone that does, live their life with a mental illness, we may pick up on something in a game that's like, oh, I do that, or oh, I deal with that may be something that, for a neurotypical person, they don't pick up on it. So, yeah, I think there could definitely be more representation. I don't think that there are enough mainstream games out there with it. Obviously, we all found a bunch of indie games that include it, and I think it's awesome. But yeah, I'd like to see like more representation in mainstream when it comes to mental illnesses.
We should dive into the reviews. We'll go back to questions if we have time after our different reviews of the different games that we had. I'm going to end up picking someone to start off. I'm not calling any of you out. I'm just going to end up picking one of the games. So I think we should start with Far From Noise. I think that was Olivia's game.
Yes, it was. So unfortunately, I didn't have time to finish the game completely, but it was a really, really good game. I think I got like an hour and a half into it, but it's kind of like the plot, I guess, of the game is you're in a car and you're like dangling off the edge of a cliff, like over the ocean. And it's kind of like a choose your own adventure game where there are some parts where like you don't get to choose what you say, but there's parts where you get to choose what you say. And the point of it is kind of like, okay, like I'm in this situation, like I'm never going to get out of this situation, like all hope is lost. So it's kind of like talking yourself through that situation. And at one point, it's not a very realistic game. At one point, a deer comes up and is like talking to you as well. And you're like, okay, I'm completely losing my mind. But the deer is like, yeah, like this is just like a moment in time. Like you're in this situation. Have you thought about ways to get out? Like it's not your permanent situation right now. So there's like it's a really good game. I highly recommend it. There was a few times I had to stop and I was like, wow, like that's really good. So yeah, I think it was a really good game, especially for, I would say, like anxiety or depression, because I know like I've struggled with that, and there's a lot of times like where I'm like, okay, well, like this is it, like there's no way out of this situation, and it kind of takes you back to like, yeah, there is. You just need to like remember that there is a way out, and you need to think through it. So yeah.
Excellent. So it was a narrative-heavy game where you're picking different options, talking to the different people, animals, things that are coming up to your car.
Yeah, it's just animals that are talking to you.
Well, I've always wanted to talk to animals, so that sounds like a good way to talk. Sometimes I feel like they have more interesting things to say than people. Excellent. Okay. So Far From Noise, dealing with your situation and how your situation's only temporary. I like that. The next game that we had on review here is Good Lookin' Home Cookin', and I do believe that is Jess's game to review.
Okay. I played that Monday. I had live streamed that. That was a lot of fun. I sat down and played it, the whole thing actually, in one playthrough. I didn't think it was going to be that short, but it was so interesting what was going on with the two girl characters in it that I couldn't stop playing. I wanted to see how it ended. But they both grew up in this town together, and it's got like pretty much little to no culture, like food wise. So they decided to bring their cultures there and have these food trucks as a little restaurant thing. And it got, it gets stressful, and it was hurting their friendship, but they had some fights and they figured out how to work through it and past it, and it worked out, and they got everything right in the end. But it was just they had some bumps in the road and didn't know how to handle it at first. Mm-hmm. And it was just a really cute little game. I liked it.
Excellent. Here we have Secret Little Haven. I do believe that's being reviewed by Kat, and it's created by Humming Warp Interactive.
That was mine, and I will say because I was unable to finish it, but I will because it's very powerful. So a little bit of a background for me, I'm non-binary. So the trans narrative was very relevant to me. Also, too, as someone who grew up loving Sailor Moon, I could definitely see the narrative there. And also, that's something I've even noticed in my own life. It's a lot of my friends, but in regards to going back to Secret Little Haven, it's sometimes you just need someone to tell you, especially in regards to trans representation, as long as it's what you identify with. If it doesn't feel right, it's not right. And also, too, I got to the second chapter, and then I finished that. Now I'm on the third, so I'm at the part to where the character I'm playing, Alex, where they're starting to understand their transness because someone else is trans, but they've run into an issue because they don't know how to talk about it. They don't have the language. They don't know what's going on. Because also, too, I mentioned Sailor Moon. The time of the game is 1999. So in regards to that, you can tell that it's new. It's even so much newer than it is now. And what happens is, because Alex just had no idea, they had no reference for anything. And also, that's why, since I haven't finished the game, I don't know which way they're going, because also that's another thing, too. Non-binary is trans. Cis just means you identify with the gender you were assigned at birth. So if you don't, you're trans, it falls under that umbrella.
Mhm.
And so that's why I've been using that language for Alex there, but that makes it harder, because what happened is, too, she, I'm assuming it's going to go if I finish it, found out that one of the people they were, chatting with was trans too, but they didn't find that out from that person. They found it out from somebody who wanted to protect them. And now they're having to deal with the internal struggle of, do you think I'm a monster? Because someone else does not know how they're going to take that, but in reality, this is just a confused person, and I could tell that initially from how Alex was responding. It was not someone who was trying to get more out of this other person. It's someone who's trying to figure out themselves. But if we also look in regards to how texting was back then, that makes it harder too, because a lot of, as you can see, I'm moving around a lot. I'm very expressive. You can tell what I'm trying to convey. You can't do that with just words on a screen.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to get tone across in text and hard to get body language. And so you're trying to get it across with just words and not knowing how another person's feeling.
Exactly. And that can cause confusion within your own head, because Alex, one of the questions, it's not the one I chose, but one of the questions was, do you really think I'm that dangerous? Oof. And just even seeing that is just an entire gut punch. Especially, I mentioned my non-binariness, and I have a lot of other trans friends. It's because, that is a thought we think a lot. And it's just something there. But, my point is with this, since I didn't finish it all the way, it's really good, and I do feel, I've read some other reviews, it's an experience. Also, I had a dad just like Jonathan, who was a master at gaslighting. It's why I've said the phrases, but it's why I said the other day to a friend, the phrase that Jonathan says, because I love you, it's one of the most triggering phrases you could ever say, especially because that person does not love you, but they are trying to use the fact that they brought you into this world to control you, and that's never a good thing. And that's why I think this is really good representation, because it helps people realize that there is family out there that's not birth. And just getting exposed to it helps, because even with myself, I watched The Good Place a while ago, and Janet is non-binary from all intents and purposes. And just seeing that can make people realize, wait, maybe that's me. And that's really what we need more of.
Excellent point. And it sounds like it's a very powerful game. So if anyone feels like they need to check something like that out, definitely do. It sounds pretty great. And then we have A New Life that's being reviewed by Emily. It was created by Angela Hay.
Yeah, so I played through A New Life. It's a bit different than games I normally play, but it's kind of like a narrative dialogue type game where you're given options to progress the story based on what you choose, and that affects your relationships throughout the game. It was a short and sweet one, not gonna lie. It was a lot shorter than I thought it was gonna be, but I did enjoy it. The game in total has 5 different endings. I played through 3 of them. And I think the bio of the game, just like its little about line, gives a good idea of what it's about. It's the bio of it is a classic love story. Meet, marry, and grow old. But when your loved one hurts you, what do you do? Is it better to have loved and hurt than never loved at all? Which, any of us that existed through puberty, I feel like has experienced that at one point in time. Like, oh my God, my heart's so broken. I shouldn't have done that. But But anyway, so you start out as a character, August, who I'm going to use she, her pronouns in describing her, but I'll be honest, I have like an inkling because of a small thing in it that this character is either non-binary or other. So, but anyway, so she, her for now. You start out as August and you meet another character named May. You form this friendship. In the storylines that I followed through, you end up in a relationship, getting married, and then I don't want to talk too much about the ending because, again, the endings can be different, but those three things happen in every storyline. You meet, you become friends, you form a relationship, you get married. Now, August, being the main character in each of the storylines, does experience a loss of some kind in relation to May. And so that's where the idea of, you know, is it better to have loved and gotten hurt than not at all? And first and foremost with the game, it is beautiful. I mean, just one of the prettiest games I've played in a very long time. Very graphic, novel-esque kind of feel to it. Very intimate, very personal, because it is literally just these two characters and the dialogue between them. And the dialogue is very realistic. It's not just kind of like weird, you know, standard prompts. It's like actual conversations that you would have with a significant other or close friend. So, you know, you see their storyline progress and everything, and based on what you choose, you know, you will feel different things. It's so hard to talk about it and not just completely give it away.
I understand. I played it for Indie Game Club, and it was such a emotional roller coaster of a game, but it's hard to not reveal what happens in the game by talking about the game.
Yeah, but it's, you know, I think, another thing that I wanted to mention that I loved, aside from just the imagery and the music, which is fantastic, is the representation of the two main characters. You know, I think there are a lot of games where basically anyone, whether they're gay or bisexual or whatever, basically anything other than straight, it is hinted at, but never just explicitly said, like, oh, hey, we're going to put a rainbow patch on this kid's backpack and you're supposed to know that she's gay. In this game, there is a definitive line of dialogue where the characters refer to themselves as a lesbian couple, and I don't think we see that enough in games. Like I said, where it's just, we're just going to say what it is. Because again, in every storyline, the girls end up getting married. So, you know, they call themselves a lesbian couple and it's adorable. But I also found it very easy, again, because of how realistic the dialogue was, how very intimate it was as a game. For me personally, it was very easy to draw parallels. So the game was released in May of 2020. You know, we all went into lockdown in March. Well, a big part of the storyline is, oh crap, I forgot the fake name, but it's basically a pandemic. You know, there's a pandemic happening and your characters have to react to it. And then there's other things that happen because of that, you know, like quarantining with your partner, how your mental health is affected during a quarantine situation and pandemic. So it again felt like, holy crap, this is, I just went through this, you know, I just went through this with my own husband, and, you know, maybe you don't like each other every single day. Okay, well, now you have to make the choice about what kind of conversation you're going to have. Are you going to be, you know, not happy and maybe just go play video games for 6 hours and ignore your partner? Or are you going to turn around and have maybe that uncomfortable conversation, but that is backed by honesty? So yeah, so I did enjoy the game. I wish it had been longer. I've only played through 3 of the endings, so I want to go through and play the other 2. But again, I think anyone, you know, would benefit from playing this game, just because, again, we all just lived through, you know, we're still kind of in a year and a half pandemic. Most of us quarantined for a year. And whether we want to acknowledge it or not, I think a lot of us had struggles with our mental health. You know, I don't see how anyone could come out of the last year without having some kind of effect. So yeah, I think, again, the name of the game is A New Life. I think it was only like $2.99 or something. It was a very inexpensive game, but I definitely support it. I think it was a great game, and I think anyone should go check it out.
Game. Excellent. I love that game too, and I still have it in my itch library from itch.io, and it was a very cute game and very feelsy, and I'm glad you got to play it, and I'm glad that you liked it. So it looks like our next review here is Missed Messages, to be reviewed by Letty, and the game was created again by Angela He. Oh god, I guess that's another emotional game then.
It sure enough fucking is. So, I played Missed Messages, and I got this game with no forewarning. Now, as someone who has attempted what I consider the stupidest thing on earth to do, I'm not going to elaborate on that. But it didn't come with strong enough forewarning. You have a friend who is going through a family issue, and you have the option of going out on a date with a hot golf girlfriend, and I'm like, date myself? Nice. Or stick around for a bit and help your friend out. I only played it through twice. I'm heard that there's more than 2 endings, but the first ending I got was the expected of. She kind of just ended her situation in a very bad way. So I went through feeling so bad and asked all the right questions and did everything right. And then when I finished the game, I felt kind of like, no one asks me these questions and I have issues. So it made me feel a type of way. But it is a very good game to play if you have troubles of either A, expressing the fact that you might not feel the best, that you might need help reaching out, or B, noticing signs in your friends that not everything is the up and up and up.
It's definitely important. It's one of the reasons that whenever I'm on my stream, I actually have an alert if I see somebody giving those signs that actually provides helplines in the US, the UK, and in Australia for people to be able to call in and end up getting help if they need it. So that way it's kind of anonymous. It just gets put into my chat in case anyone needs it. Because you're right, it's a very important thing that we notice the warning signs in our friends and our loved ones. And a game showing how easy it is to miss those signs is definitely important to having. Would you recommend it to other people to play?
I would recommend it to other people to play. Just heavy trigger warning if you have any suicidal thoughts. Heavy trigger warning.
Yeah, I think the terminology there is suicidal ideation.
Gotcha.
Yes, that's.
But yeah, no. I'm sorry. I just wanted to say that because I've played both Missed Messages and A New Life, and they are fantastic. And you're right, Letty. It's that these signs are easy to miss, but also too, sometimes if you're the one giving advice, like being that friend, it's hard for you to realize when people are giving that back to you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what that helped me realize, because I was always that friend asking if everyone else was okay. But I realized too, like what you probably were saying too, no one told me that until I noticed they were. It was just not in a way I understood.
Excellent. Amazing points. And I have a game that I ended up having to review as well called Kindred Garden, created by Papa J. It is a platformer dealing with the ideas of grief, the ideas that you have lost a dear friend that you've had with you for most of your life, and you're having to try and struggle to get through your days. So the platformer has you going to get these cards that represent going to bed, eating food, and you're having to try and figure out how to get to these cards by jumping through all these hoops, jumping through different little platforms that reverse how you go, and it can show how the world feels upside down in order for you to be able to go to bed, to go and get food. I have not played through all of it. Some of these levels are incredibly hard, and I am not that great at platformers. I love them, but I am terrible at them. But with that, it's a good representation, I think, in that you need a support system because it's meant to be played either solo with you controlling 2 characters, or with a friend controlling the arrow keys while you're doing WASD. And so you get to jump, you get to go through all these different hoops. It's very cute art. It has amazing music. The musical score was very soothing, which I appreciated because, like I said, me and platforms have a love-hate relationship where I love them, but they hate me. So with that, the soothing music definitely helped so I could try and get through more of the platformer. And there's a training level. It has multiple different levels. It's a free game you can play on itch. It runs in your browser. And the art is just absolutely beautiful. And it has a little fox that is your friend, I think representing the person that you've lost, that is trying, or your support system trying to help you get through these things. and you can only see certain parts of the map, and it zooms completely out the further away you are from the fox, and zooms completely in when you're really close together. And you have to hit both of these doors for the boy and for the fox. And sometimes it's easier to get to one of the doors to get to the next level than it is to get to the other one. And so it's a lot of collaborative things, and it's meant to represent getting through loss is difficult, and you need that support system to help you get over it. And sometimes just going to bed or eating food can feel like this Herculean effort of trying to make yourself go through the normal actions of your day-to-day life once you've lost someone, or once you're having to change your situation. And I think it does that really well without throwing it completely in your face. And I'm probably going to go back on itch and continue trying to play till I can get to the end of this platformer, because it is cute and I want to see what the ending is. And I'm probably going to look into that creator as well, and that's Papa J on itch.io. It was very cute. Next game is Tuesday by Zeldin being reviewed, and then it's created by Katrina Starks.
Yeah, Tuesday was really interesting. It has vibes that's a lot like Emily is Away, where it's all based on typing. It's all text-based. And so you wake up and you kind of go through the day deciding what you want to wear, what would you like to do, your errands, and all these things. And sometimes some of the options, once you click it, they're like, he doesn't like this. So you decide something else. And then you decide either you wear something or do something based on what you want, or do something or wear something based on what he wants. And so it kind of implies what's going on, and later on you get to hang out with a friend of yours, or that friend of yours wants you to come and hang out with them. And for some reason, your spouse does not like that person, and so you have to decide whether you do want to go hang out with them or you don't. And but at the end of it, it never comes to different ends. No matter what you do, this person is never happy with you, and you end up being abused. And at the end, the only options are to choose between waking up the next day and doing it all over again, or pressing the hotline button. And it actually opens up hotlines for you to go to if you are experiencing domestic abuse. And that is really interesting as a person that has gone through not like domestic abuse, but has gone through emotional abuse from a relationship. It was really interesting to have that splayed out for me to see. Like, no matter what I do, no matter what I say, no matter what I wear, no matter any action I took, I wouldn't be able to make that other person happy. And it's realistic and could help a lot of people, not just women, because men can face this thing too, and non-binary, anyone on the spectrum can face this type of problem, where your partner is not mentally healthy, does not function like a real partner should, and mistreats you. So it's nice to be able to have that, and maybe it'll be somebody's wake-up call one day. I was lucky enough to get out, but there are some people that might not have been so lucky. And so having that shown for them to see, like, no matter what you do, even if you think you'll make one tiny decision, if I had done this or that, it's not going to matter, and you matter more, and you deserve more. It was interesting to watch, like, them blaming themselves throughout the whole story.
That's really powerful.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I recommend, but it gets hard at the end.
Excellent. And we have quite a few games to end up going through the reviews of, so we'll go back to comments about the games from other people that have played them before, probably at the end, just so we can make sure we get through all of the reviews. But it sounds like that's a rather intense game and does a lot of representation there. And we're going to hear from Zeldin again, I do believe, because we have a Garden on the Sea as another game that was played.
Yes, A Garden on the Sea was really cute. Lots of bright colors. Basically a character, I think their name was Lori, or one of them is Lori, the other is Ellie. And one of them is a whale. Then they're out in the middle of the ocean, sailing off to find a new home. And it kind of implies that one of the characters had something bad happen to them, like something, who knows what, but they need to journey home to get, or journey somewhere to find a new home. But this person is really sad and feeling down about it. It kind of implies PTSD, which is also something that I've dealt with as well, continue to deal with every day. But this person talks to the whale, and the whale is kind of encouraging them, like, hey, we need to find you something that will make things better for you. And so they decide, I'm going to plant a garden in the middle of the ocean. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to plant it. And the game kind of has you going into the ocean and picking up nutrients, which, you know, it's silly, but it's to help the story. So you basically get these nutrients, you bring it up to the whale that has a garden on its back, and you plant the tree. And over time, your person, the main character, finds this rewarding because she gets to watch the tree expand and grow and become beautiful. And by the end, not everything is perfect, but they become a little bit, they accept more what's going on. They find more acceptance with their situation. And they recognize, you know, we may never find a new home. We might die here in the middle of the ocean, but decide that at least they're together in that. And it kind of seals it off the bow.
Zelda, what was the name of the game again?
That one was A Garden on the Sea. And that was
Awesome.
by Finn Trong.
And what did you do it on itch.io?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I just really like it. Sounded good.
It sounds really cute.
No problem.
I'm getting a list of all of these games for later.
That was very beautiful, and I think the main message you hit there too, it's you have to feed the relationships you want to keep, and then you can see how they can grow into something beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, and then we have Wait being reviewed by Sahiris.
That is right. Yeah, you said it right,
Excellent.
Sahiris.
Yes, it's created by Lindsay Gray. So tell us about Wait.
Okay, so Wait, I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys. For me personally, it wouldn't be for somebody with certain diagnoses like me, because I have ADHD. So the whole concept of the game is you have to focus on something and wait for it to appear. You're out in the woods, and then things start to appear like a flower. Okay, so then you go and get closer to the flower, and as you achieve these things, you gather points, but it requires a lot of patience. So with somebody with me who's diagnosed with ADHD, that wouldn't be therapeutic for someone like me. One of the other games, like someone else reviewed, like even if it's just like a one clicker, like you're on the car with the cliff with the reindeer, that would work for somebody like me. But I will say, being in my field and stuff like that, I could see where a game like that could help other people, say like people suffering from PTSD, people who have had recent trauma that need something to just focus off whatever crisis they're going through in the meantime. Because when I was playing that game, I mean, it required you to focus on whatever would pop up and get closer to it. So I could see how it could take them out of that negative situation in their mind, at least for a brief while. Focus on this game. Another thing about this game that I found out, it has no end. It has no end at all. I had to Google it. I'm like, why am I still like, where's the ending? And then I read, I'm like, it's infinite. So you could play it as long as you need to. So as long as you need to relax, the whole purpose is literally to slow down and smell the flowers. Too often people get it like immersed in shooters and flashy, you know, all this stimulation going on. That may not be healthy for someone with PTSD or veterans or someone who's going through something, but this would be perfect for someone, a client like that. So, you know, I saw both sides to it.
Okay, it sounds like somebody with anxiety that needs to be able to focus on something more tactile might be able to play well with that game. From how you described it. Okay, I can definitely see that. And different games for different folks, so definitely makes sense that it wouldn't vibe with everybody. But I'm glad that you gave it a solid chance. And maybe if somebody has PTSD or anxiety and just needs something to be able to focus on and build points that way, maybe that's a game you can check out. It might be beneficial to you. Night in the Woods. It says Anne and Sahiris. It's created by Infinite Fall.
And it was really interesting, more so in the fact that what I derived from the character is they feel like they don't belong. They're kind of running away from their problems, but everyone else in their life has everything figured out. You know, their friends are, you know, getting married, having babies, got their life figured out, and they're like, oh, well, I just dropped out of college and I came home and I'm back with my parents. What do I do now? I kind of had that sense of feeling lost and not knowing what to do, and being kind of anxious that everyone else seems to have this big plan of where they're going to go in life, and they're just like, well, I tried and now I don't know what to do, and so they're just not doing anything. That's kind of my take on it.
Yeah, definitely. So I did not get through all of it, so I'm glad that you were able to dabble in there and, you know, give some input on that. But from what I did gather, you're right. It focuses on this girl named May who leaves college. She goes back home. She's kind of got like a negative attitude to her and is just kind of like careless and reckless and just like self-fulfilling. You know, she's got this friend. They're just out there just doing like all sorts of like delinquency, all this stuff. Just, I mean, she seemed pretty borderline to me at first. But then also, when she first comes home, people aren't really very supportive of her either. They're like, "What are you doing back home? You're supposed to be in college." They're like, "Oh, you don't have a car? Like, you didn't finish college, so what are you doing?" So, you know, and then you find out that I think like her grandpa's like an alcoholic or something like that and has like some bipolar traits. So, you know, that's hereditary. So that may be some cause of why she is the way that she is, maybe, and hints at some possible trauma. They leave it kind of open there. But it does, as you're playing the game, if you're someone with a mental illness, it lets you see from the outside how you would probably react or behave in other people's eyes. And it's that whole thing of like relatability. Like, hey, these things happen. You know, she's having mood swings, all this stuff. I go through the same thing. And ultimately, she does try to get help. It's just limited resources where she's at, which is a real life problem in certain areas and a lot of areas, actually, regardless if it's insurance or you live in a small town. But she does try. She does try. So in the end, you learn to understand the symptoms, how to recognize when someone's going through something. So maybe you shouldn't be that sarcastic person making little jokey jokes. Why are you here? You're supposed to be in college, when you don't know what they went through. You don't know what's going on up here, because her behaviors obviously showed, I'm not a doctor, I can't diagnose her, but obviously showed something abnormal was going on with her. So it teaches you to recognize the signs, and hey, because it shows you everything else that she's going through as you walk along with her. We're not in this person's shoes, so maybe we should stop it before we judge and not say those things that are unnecessary, because it could lead to further detriment of their mental health. That, and she wasn't afraid to get help in the end. She talked to her friends about it. She talked to her friends, not to the point where it was like burdening or anything like that, but it teaches you it's okay for you and your friends to have a support system and talk about your traumas and your troubles together, because that's what social networks, that's what friends are supposed to be for. So even if you can't relate to the character, it teaches you empathy. So I like that.
Definitely a big thing I think the world needs is a bit more empathy sometimes. So Night in the Woods, great game. I've been playing it a little bit myself, so I'm glad you guys got to play it. I hope you get to finish it. I do believe I have another game that Anne is reviewing called Fractured Minds, created by Emily Mitchell.
And so Fractured Minds resonated with me a little more than A Night in the Woods. It was pretty short, maybe about 30, 40 minutes, if you take your time with it. But just what I got from it is just the feeling of dealing with anxiety, even with doing normal, mundane tasks. Chapter 1 is called The Mundane, and the point of that chapter is you're trying to get out of your room. You need to find a key. But every key you find, it pops up saying wrong key, wrong key, wrong key, and you can kind of just get overwhelmed with anxiety as you're trying to get out of this room. And that kind of resonated with me on the fact that sometimes I just have anxiety pop up for no reason, because it's anxiety, that's what it does. Just doing everyday things that I've done before, and it's just like, hey, we're here. You know how to do this, you've done it a million times, but you're doing it wrong. That's kind of how I got through the first chapter. Later in the game, there's a scene where you're underwater, and that kind of made me feel like the weight of being crushed, kind of. Again, with the anxiety, and it reminded me of another game that I've played forever ago, and when I first played it, you realize you're underwater in the ocean, and I paused because I love going to the beach, I love the ocean, but it scares me to death because it's one of those things that could take you out very quickly. And that bridled anxiety of getting to that level and seeing that you're underwater, I paused again because I was like, oh, well, we have to get through this, so let's keep moving on. And when you get to the last chapter in the game, you kind of have to realize, I know I have this issue that's going on. I know it pops up and I can't control when it happens, but I can push forward and I can move through it. And that's the takeaway I got from the game, is you are going to deal with this issue. Depending on the severity from person to person, there are ways to deal with it. But if you do nothing, it controls you. Versus if you try to at least do something and make progress, you can control it.
Excellent. I really do like that. I have a lot of friends that are actually really anxious about water, whether it is video game water or real life water. So I think that's a fear that gets used very well in video games. So I'm glad they kind of utilized it here to try and get you to prepare. And would you recommend this for other people to play?
Yes, I would recommend it. Like I said, it's a short game, but it puts a lot of perspective on whether you think inside the box or outside of the box. And no matter what you do, if you deal with this issue, it's going to show up no matter what. But if you work your way through it and try your best to not let it control you, you'll wake up again the next day and the next day, and you'll just keep moving forward until you either feel more comfortable with it or you find ways to help you manage it better.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Anne, for playing that and sharing it with us. And we have one more that was reviewed called Guide, being reviewed by Catherine. It was created by Reframe Games.
So Guide is a quick game. You play a baby phoenix trying to get out of a dark forest. And with you have this small little light that allows you to see but so much in front of you. And you're trying to get out of the forest. The forest is filled with these giant eyeballs that attack you if you don't get close enough with your light. I found it interesting because it does kind of feel like life. You don't know what's in front of you. You don't know what is about to happen. but hopefully the light inside of you can get you through whatever darkness you might be feeling. The eyeballs threw me off at first. um I didn't know like what to make of the eyeballs. Like it was weird to me. But at first I thought they were only attacking when I faced away from them. So I'm like, well, is this like representation of what people might think of you and how they might not like you and judge you, and you have that anxiety of, because some people prefer to be liked by everyone. um so I kind of got that, but then I realized that they go away once your light gets closer to them. um it it gave me a little bit of anxiety just because I didn't like not being able to see what happens next. And then it kind of made me reflect on my own anxieties. Like, I'm a planner. I like to plan. I like to go from A to B to C today, and life doesn't work that way. So it made me realize that it had, a lot to do with my life. Like, I like knowing what happens next. I don't like change. And this is kind of like the same as the character. Like I said, you play a phoenix. I would recommend it to people who kind of have anxiety as well. Just know that it could trigger your anxiety, and you might have to pause or have water with you. The artwork was very different. Definitely nothing I've seen in a video game. But I enjoyed it, but it's short, so there's that.
Excellent. It sounds like you liked it.
I did.
I have a comment to say on that, if I can, real quick.
So, yep, that was the last game to review, so go right ahead.
With her game and the previous game, they both talked about how they were put in like fearful situations for the both of them, but they still stuck with it. So it's just kind of interesting how even if it's supposed to be a therapeutic game, you could use fear to actually conquer some of your anxieties. And they do that through immersion therapy. So you have the right to pause. You have the right to take a little bit at a time. If you're scared of water, pause. But after prolonged exposure therapy, you're going to get through it. The whole point is to put you in a situation where you see a harmful environment, but not in the same condition. You're in a harmful environment in the video game, okay? It's just like you would be if that was like real life, but it's to get you to realize that not every harmful environment is going to cause like a harmful effect. That's why they do that. So I'm glad you both conquered your fears, whether it be in dark light or water. So that's pretty interesting how they did that. I like that.
As we are on this topic of this, that reminds me of some of my own traumas I've had to go through. A lot of this as well, in regards to what you're saying with that kind of therapy, is unlearning trauma responses. A lot of the trauma responses that we have developed are because that's what we needed at that time. But once you get older, you don't need that anymore. So it's good to unlearn that and realize that not everyone's your enemy. But also, too, another thing to remember as well, not everyone's your friend either. So that's why we need these kind of like therapies with people we trust, our friends, these connections. That way, we can move forward and all be healthier, because at the end of the day, why do we want more hate when we can just have love instead?
Excellent point. And with that, I do have one last question to wrap up everything, and then we'll have our closing outros of saying our names again, any handles you want people to be able to find you at. Last one being, do you feel that introducing someone to gaming can benefit them with different games like this and different environments you can put yourself in games? I see some nods. Anyone want to expand upon their nods? Emily.
I think I think it can be very hard to have conversations about mental health, especially, with those that we're closest to, whether it's, a new partner or a new friend or even someone at work or something like that. Definitely not offering, these things up as excuses, but maybe explanations for our behavior or how we react to things or why we do certain things or anything like that. And so, maybe instead of trying to, give this exact description or anything like that, if we can draw parallels into some of these games, be like, hey, have you heard of this game? Have you played this game? Because this is what happened in the game. And, see their kind of reaction to that, and then base your own personal conversations after the fact, with, oh, okay, well, maybe that's what I'm going through. Or maybe you realize maybe you don't want to tell them what you're going through because of how they reacted to your description of the game. So I think it can be beneficial to recommend any of these games or games in general to people that wouldn't otherwise consider themselves gamers. I kind of agree with the previous statement. You're not a gamer because of XYZ. If you play a game, you're a gamer. End of sentence. Yeah. So yeah, I do think that it can be very beneficial to, whether it's helping someone understand more about yourself or whether it be for yourself to gauge how much of what you want to share with this person about yourself.
Exactly. And Zeldin, I saw you raise your hand.
Yeah, I think it's really beneficial to share games with your friends, especially if, because they're your friend, you're going to know if they're having a bad time, a hard time or not. And so being able to give them the ability to play these games, like if you know that this game could take them out of their situation for at least a moment so that it's not as hard in that moment, you can say, hey, this game exists. Because I know a lot of people that don't know how to deal with the feelings that they're experiencing. And so that can be really hard for a person. And I felt that way too, that sometimes things are so overwhelming and I don't know what to do with my emotions. So sometimes being able to be given an outlet can be very helpful. So yeah, I would love to give my friends any type of game that could possibly help them. We can figure it out together.
Excellent. And Kat, I saw you raise your hand.
Yeah, so leading into all this too, just one thing I want to say in particular to the game Tuesday that you reviewed is that it's really good to have a game like that has hidden away hotlines. Because also another thing as well is that's a good way to get someone help in a situation where they might not be able to otherwise. Especially in regards to abuse, these numbers are hidden for these women's safety. Which, however, means, not some women, because normally that's who's primarily affected, but as mentioned earlier, it can happen to anybody. But regardless, these hotlines are hidden. And because they're hidden, if you don't know where to look, you're going to be struggling in silence. So sometimes having these kinds of games hidden away like that's very helpful. And also to absolutely play more games with your friends, bonds with each other, and especially in regards to mine, something like this helped me come out more, because as I've mentioned before, I'm non-binary also too. I'm AFAB. All that really means is I was assigned female at birth because in my mom's uterus, that's what I had, is my lady. It seemed like I was a lady, so there's that there. But labels are what help others to understand us. So sometimes that's how these games can help too. It helps others understand who you are. Because you might not have the words, but our expressions can help.
Excellent. And of course, I'm going to say definitely play more games with your friends. Recommend games to your friends. We had somebody that introduced all of their friends to Uno and got them to start playing on Uno. So I mean, clearly it doesn't have to be like Call of Duty. It doesn't have to be a like Modern Warfare. It could be anything that you and your friends can end up playing. So that'll end up being pretty great. Just try to get them involved. All right, so anyone else? No, I'm pretty sure we all agree that definitely recommending games to your friends is probably one of the best things you can do to help them either understand you, help them better grow their own perceptions of games. Do we have any last chat questions that we can address really quick? And we are going to end up, because I've seen somebody asking for our names, we're going to go through our names at the very end and how to find us if you want to end up talking to us about games in Twitch channels or on Twitter or on our blogs or wherever it is you can contact us, because we all have different contact methods. So we'll do that in just a minute. But any last questions?
I have a comment if that's all right.
Yeah, go for it.
So, like I was mentioning with the Tuesday there too, also and going on to the topic of Night in the Woods, like you guys were talking about, it's the main thing is treat people with compassion and empathy because you don't know what they're going through. And once you open yourself up like that, more people will probably start to change their behaviors as well, because they might realize, wait a minute, I'm being a jerk to somebody who's trying to help me. This is probably not the best way to go about things, and also that's in regards to why we can share these with other people as well. Sometimes people just don't have the knowledge we do. And also, Life is Strange I saw that in chat earlier, that's really good, and they're having an empathy one come out, which I'm very excited about.
Excellent. All right, I don't see any other questions coming through into chat, so we're going to start doing closing shout outs here for us. So we're going to start just like we did last time. Olivia, would you like to start us off with how they can find you if they want to talk to you, or if you want them to be able to find any Twitch or blogs or anything like that?
Sure. So Fiery Fox is literally every social media handle I have. The best way of contact is probably like Instagram or Facebook. So yeah, and thank you all for this panel tonight. It was really awesome.
Excellent. And then we have Jess.
Hello, Madam Fun Size, variety gamer, streamer. You can catch me on Twitch or the streams, but I'm on all the social media platforms as Madam Fun Size. Try to keep it simple.
Keeping it simple is always great. Emily.
I'm kind of the same. I go by Hello ALO on pretty much every platform or social media. Best way of contact, kind of the same, is probably just Instagram would be the easiest place to find me.
Excellent. And then we have Anne.
So all my social medias are also ScarletAeon. You can also find me and reach out to me on my website, ScarletAeon.com.
Excellent. Letty.
Hi. You can find me at Trash Can Games and Arts, because it's a trash can, not trash cannot. If you ever think you're bad at something, it's a trash can. But yeah, you can find me on Twitch, you can find me on YouTube, and you can find me on Facebook Gaming, and each has exclusive content that doesn't spread over to the other one. At least I try not to let it spread.
Excellent. And then we have Catherine.
So I'm known as the High Heel Gamer, pretty much through all social media, the High Heel Gamer. Best way of contact is Instagram and Facebook. Those are the ones I check the most.
Excellent. Kat?
Normally, I keep all my stuff pretty much locked down, so I don't have like a public presence, but if you just want to chat and hang out with me, I'm here in this Discord with the Athena Alliance, and then that's how we can connect. Normally though, if you do see me on any like Steam or PS4, those are either going to be the Cat 424 or the Katrina 424.
Okay, excellent. We have Sahiris.
So you could find me on PS4. It's the OG_TO, or my Facebook gaming page, Tits McGee, or I'm around Discord, always talking my head off, you know, or you could find me on Uno on Tuesdays, beating Letty or Emmy.
You ain't beating me. That ain't happening.
That's usually where I'm at.
Guys, leave that to Tuesdays.
Okay.
But yeah, if you want to end up playing some Uno with these wild ladies, join the Athena Alliance Discord and see if you can beat them. I don't think you can. They bring the fire every time, but
It'd be nice.
You are welcome to try. We have Zeldin here.
Hi, I'm Zeldin. On all social media, I am Zeldin Fairies. The best way to contact me is Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. you name it, I pretty much got it. And I am a Twitch streamer, so I stream when I feel like it, when my mental health is not getting in the way. So I'd love to see you there. Thanks so much for having me.
And once again, hi, I'm ScarletAeon. You can find me here on twitch.tv/ScarletAeon. Scarlet like the color, Aeon like Aeons from Final Fantasy. You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram. On Twitter, ScarletD14, Instagram, ScarletAeon. It's been my gamer tag since I was 10. Easiest way to find me. I'm a variety streamer here on Twitch, and you can also sometimes see me here at the Athena Alliance channel, playing games or part of other types of panels. We talk about how streamers can get started with streaming. We hang out, we goof off, we have community nights sometimes. Ask Fun Size here. We do a lot of crazy stuff here on the channel sometimes. It's a great time. And we did have a winner to the giveaway. That is Moju22. Just whisper the Athena Alliance, please, and we will see about getting you that game. Congratulations on winning the giveaway. And if you can, please do stick around. We're going to end up raiding into the programmer on Kindred Garden playing. So stick around if you can. It was lovely being here with you guys tonight, and we hope that you have a wonderful rest of your weekend.
See you later, y'all.
See you later.
Thank you.